Today we bring you new bluegrass music from a gentleman who's been playing it for almost 60 years. Peter Rowan joined Bill Monroe's band back in 1963. Since then he's had success as a player and songwriter as a member of Seatrain, Old and in the Way, Earth Opera, and the Rowans. Plus, he wrote Panama Red for New Riders of the Purple Sage. Now at age 79, Bill Rowan is still going. He just released Calling You From My Mountain, where he gets a little help from Molly Tuttle. Not that he needs it.
Glory, hallelujah, ain't it peculiar? She'll make you glad, she'll drive you mad with her power to inspire. Lovesick blues breaking all the rules, old Hank never stood a chance. And she filled his heart with gladness, and old Hank started to dance.
The album is called Calling You From My Mountain.
Yeah.
And there is a track similarly titled. So tell me what was the formation of the record? When did it start in your mind becoming a record like this?
Well, I was planning to do another sort of traditional bluegrass record, and because Dave Freeman, who owned or has headed Rebel Records for years, did a lot of Ralph Stanley's recordings, and he felt that I had, always done something new and different, and never just stayed the course with a traditional bluegrass approach. So I did one for him 3 years ago, called Carter Stanley's Eyes, and about the great Carter Stanley of the Stanley Brothers. And I was thinking of something along those lines, and then I started thinking about Hank Williams' sort of doppelganger, alter ego called Luke the Drifter. And I was gonna write a whole story about Luke the Drifter, and do it bluegrass style. But then the COVID hit, and quite honestly, I just thought, I've got these tunes that I've always been thinking about and wanting to do, and a new one like From My Mountain is not really a traditional bluegrass song. And I just put a band together, and we went out and played one festival last October when things started to open up, and went right in the studio after 3 days at the festival and made the record. And the chemistry was great. And they're all my songs that I've just, except for, I guess we got one Woody Guthrie and one Carter family song. But these are songs that I've always wanted to do. And I just decided to go ahead and do my music and not worry so much about whether it's traditional or
right.
And I think it came out well.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, you have a song, speaking of Hank Williams, the song that made Hank Williams dance.
Yeah, that they even did a video on that. It just came out yesterday.
Oh, did it? Cool.
Yeah.
She's the dance that made Hank Williams sing. She's the song that made him dance. She's the dance that made Hank Williams sing. She's the song that made him dance.
This sort of conundrum came to me in a dream in the form of the words of a female, like goddess or like a deity of some kind. I was thinking about Hank Williams and just fooling around down there on my own, and in Texas, this pretty inspiring place for music. And she said, "I am the dance that made Hank Williams sing. I'm the song that made him dance." And I thought, well, okay, I need a song about you. And and so that line stayed with me all these years, and this particular version, I think is, we've done some other versions, that sounded like a country song or something, but just doing it straight ahead as a bluegrass tune, all the players know where to go with that.
Right.
And let's see the chorus. Yeah, Sean Camp, a great songwriter in Nashville, joined me on this song, and he was a co-wrote with Guy Clark a lot, and right now Sean Camp has the title cut of Willie Nelson's new record.
Right.
So but we've always just enjoyed playing with each other, and he he's a solo artist and a great fiddle player, really. He just we came in the studio together and just kind of like hit it off on this tune. You know, we known each other, and it's a kind of a two-person song. Sean Camp is his name, and yeah, you know, she's the dance that made Hank Williams sing. She's the song that made him dance. You know, I think that's why it appeared as like this sort of deity, this female figure, because that sort of explains Hank's own fascinations a little bit. So it borders on a Luke the Drifter kind of thing.
Excellent. And now I see Molly Tuttle singing on a couple of tunes. I spoke with Molly just a few months ago, I think, when her album was coming out. How did you hook up with her?
Well, she's a longtime California resident, family, lives out here. And I knew that she was going to be in Nashville. I was going to make this record in Nashville. And but I went down there and did this one with her after we had done most of the tracks. We did another one on there called The Red, White, and the Blue, or To Stop the War Machine.
I remember you. I remember all the red, the white, and the blue.
Molly is just a fantastic singer, and when she sings bluegrass, she's got, you know, she's come up through bluegrass, and I guess she has a singer-songwriter album she did too as well. But when I was so surprised at the quality she gave to the song in the studio, it was quite quite emotional sound on her voice, and I just loved it. I really enjoy singing with Molly.
Cool. And what can you tell me? The song is somewhat political, The Red, the White, and the Blue. What brought that on?
Just a feeling, you know, that in a way civilization is enslaved to the war machine. You know, President Eisenhower, after World War II, saw the direction things were going. It was no longer simply, you know, fighting people who want to dominate the world. But that's a whole can of worms too, in its own right. But that the military industrial complex, who basically, you know, worldwide try to control all the oil and resources. I mean, we're in the middle of it again right now with this, but it's never been far away, you know. I mean, you know, it's endless, right? The war machine to control all the resources of the earth and make everybody enthralled and enslaved to that kind of a, you know, make us. We all need what they're trying to control. You know, I mean, whether it be the grain from the Ukraine, or whether it be the oil from wherever, you know, it just seems like that's the way the world has been for a long time. And you know, at the same time, here we are in the music world, and we're talking about generosity and tolerance and you know, patience and compassion and all the good things. And it just seems like there's a huge divide. And so The Red, the White, and the Blue was a way to kind of engage a bluegrass audience with, you know, something that was within the tradition musically, and yet says something rather than just you know, bluegrass is full of ghost stories, and I wanted to write something about the world as it is, But then the sister song of that is Molly again on From My Mountain to Your Mountain.
Right.
Calling You, which I think is the answer to the red and the white and the blue.
It's cold and lonely up on my mountain so high. It's cold and lonely up on my mountain so high. I'm calling you.
You know, we are reaching out from our isolated individualities, you know, reaching out in the world, especially after the whole, we hope after the whole COVID thing.
Yep.
It lingers horribly so, you know.
Oh yeah.
But not with the virulence that initially, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, man, you know, a lot of the bluegrass tunes that came out of the late 30s and 1940s were involved also with a pandemic. I remember Hank Williams on the radio saying, this is a song for all the sick and shut in. And what he was talking about, not only isolated country people, but the fact that they were in a pandemic back then too, coming out of one, the TB thing. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Now, speaking of bluegrass, you know a bit about bluegrass. I mean, you started out with Bill Monroe, so and there seems to be a lot of bluegrass happening these days. Are you kind of connected with any kind of bluegrass community, other bluegrass musicians, or?
Well, yeah, we're starting to play bluegrass festivals,
right?
You know, it's sort of we're at a crossroads, really. Not everything is opening up like people imagine, but there are maybe I haven't seen the listings of bluegrass festivals, but we played 2 this last weekend, Telluride, Colorado, and Grass Valley Father's Day Festival out here in California, and that was good. You know, over the weekend, I think we played a total of 4 or 5 sets, and that's where bluegrass needs to be, is that you play a lot. You know, right. It's not like you set up in the arena and just do that. You know, bluegrass has its own circuit, really, and it seems like it's coming back. We've got 4 or 5 more festivals this summer, and you know, and that's a good sign. You know, we're going to St. Louis, Missouri. We're going up to Kentucky and North Carolina, and we were out there at the Merle Watson Festival in North Carolina, and that, of course, used to be the host was Doc Watson, Merle's father,
right?
And he's always, you know, been very generous, and you know, as far as different generations of bluegrass players that were coming up, he would always include us, you know, and on some level, whether it be just live or, you know, he was from the old school, you know, everybody got a chance to sit in.
Right.
And, you know, and now we got, I guess the leader of the pack right now is Billy Strings.
That's right. Yeah. He's doing all right.
Yeah. He came up the hard way, and he said music saved his life. He went up to his old high school in Michigan and gave away 300 or 400 guitars and said, it helped me. I hope it will help you.
There you go.
Because you know, there are these isolated, and the United States is not unified, as we're finding out to our
yes,
horror,
indeed.
again. But you know, there's so many isolated communities. It's a gesture like that. It says a whole lot to young kids, that, you know, here's a guitar, you know, make something of this, you know, music has always been the first level of diplomacy. I mean, you know, even people from countries that are just totally not getting along, often the musicians are just fine with each other.
Right.
You know, they're kind of bemused actually at the larger ridiculousness of, you know,
the whole political
aggression. Little things.
Yeah. Now, getting back to the album, I'm curious, because I've heard the album, obviously, but I don't have a lot of credits and details. So where was it recorded, and who did you record with on the record?
Well, it happened quite spontaneously. There was only one bluegrass festival last year that I had on my books. I was playing quite a few makeup dates with my other band out of South Texas, the Free Mexican Air Force, which is a conjunto. It's kind of a Tex-Mex rock and roll with a group of called Los Tex Maniacs, and we've been doing that. Yeah, and we've been doing that for a while because the work that was generated by the last album, Carter Stanley's Eyes, it had gone on for 3 years and then sort of trailed off, and so we were doing all this really up dance music and with accordions and bajo sextos and and we had one bluegrass festival on the books, and I thought, well, it had been a while since I had any bluegrass dates, and my old band people had gone their separate ways, and I just thought time for something new. So I called everybody: Eric Thorin on bass, Chris Henry on the mandolin, Julian Pinelli on fiddle, and Max Wareham on banjo, people that I had known. And I always thought, wow, great young players, kind of like when Bill Monroe hired all of us in our early 20s back in the 1960s, that was interesting to have a band that young for him. He was in his 50s. So I just called these guys. They're all young players. They're all coming up, and they all have their own thing going a little bit. And I mean, you have to these days, whether it's teaching or, to stay alive in bluegrass music without getting a day job, you have to be very enterprising, Sure. And Chris Henry does a mandolin teaching thing, and it's based on Bill Monroe's mandolin style. And I always like that. And Julian Pinelli is this fabulous young fiddler. And I know his parents, and in fact, his dad sent me his record and said, "Maybe you'd like to play with Julian." I go, "Oh yeah, he sounds great." Right. And Eric Thorin is a veteran bass player. He's played with a lot of folks around, acoustic bass player. And Max Wareham is my second cousin's son, which makes me an uncle once removed. Maybe I don't know, but he had picked up the banjo. I had met him when he was 14 years old, about 14 years ago, and he was just such an enthusiastic young player. And I called everybody, bought all the airline tickets. We all flew to Wisconsin. Yeah, that's where the festival was, at the headwaters of the Mississippi River. Right. A little town called Winona, and it was called Boats and Bluegrass. Okay. And that's the old Lakota Sioux Indian territory where they were the residents there for their longest time before they became Plains Indians, where we associate with them now, buffalo hunters and stuff like that. They were canoe people up on Lake Superior, Lake Erie, and they traded mostly with the French, but again, politics. Yeah. And so this beautiful spot out on the interconnected estuaries of the upper Mississippi River, Winona. Of course, there's a legend there about Winona, the Indian princess and all. And but the vibe is great. The vibe was great. And we got up, and we never played together as a group before. And we stayed there for 3 days, and we just rehearsed and played. And, it's like, let's go all live together, play a festival, and make a record. So that's what we did. We lived together for 3 days, and then went in the studio for 4 days. And that's trusting the music. It's trusting the process, and going on the intuition that the chemistry is good. And so we only started playing together like in April, and it was like, oh, we know this music. And we recorded this music. It was all new. It wasn't like material developed on the road or anything. It was all new songs that I wanted to do. I wanted to do my own material rather than traditional. And it worked out. It just is a happy ongoing conclusion of, interplay and musical ideas, really.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it sounded like, did the sessions go fairly quickly with all these amazing players?
Well, it wasn't like session players type of thing. It was like they were trusting me, with the material and my approach too is kind of like, this is in general the direction of the song, and I want this passage to be like this, and that's about it. Bluegrass players just sort of know what to do intuitively. They've studied it long enough to, you play rhythm here, you play lead there, And Julian Pinelli as a fiddle player is extremely exciting to me because he never just kind of fades out into the mix. He's always in there doing something that supports everything else that's going along. And the song he chose on this recording was a song written by my old buddy and my old partner, Tex Logan, Benjamin Franklin Tex Logan, who went to MIT, University, in his senior year of high school, and and worked for Bell Labs for many long years, but he never gave up in his music. And he had written some wonderful tunes. And the surprise was that Julian chose Come Along Jody, which is a kind of like really slinky groove. And that was really, I thought, man, that is cool, And it was just a spontaneous kind of thing. I had the songs, and one of the songs I was really happy we got to do was Lightning Hopkins. That's the other one that's not mine. Lightning Hopkins' Penitentiary Blues.
Oh yeah,
because Lightning had apprenticed with Blind Lemon Jefferson in Texas, and I got a chance to hang out a little bit with Lightning, and but I loved his music. I listened to his music all the time. Somebody turned me onto it when I was a kid, just still playing record hops around Boston with a little rock and roll band called the Cupids that I had. Somebody turned me on to Lightning Hopkins. It changed everything, because here it was, here's ideas that Chuck Berry had brought out into the world.
Yeah.
With just one guy and guitar. And it was like, it was mind blowing to me.
Big Brazos, here I come. Oh, Big Brazos, here I come. Well, it's hard doing time for another man when there ain't a thing.
And it's a political song, Penitentiary Blues is about a guy doing time for another man. That means that these poor people down Mississippi, Texas, well, actually Texas, on the Big Brazos, it's a penitentiary down there. And, somebody who committed a crime had money, and they would pay the parents of a young man to go and do time for this other man. It's weird. I mean, really weird.
Yep. Yeah.
But that's some of the reality that we live with in this world,
Right.
Yeah. And Lightning was a tremendously philosophical kind of a guy, his music is full of incredible humor, and I just love his music. So, Bill Monroe in his day listened to the blues and was taught by a black man, Arnold Schultz, who his uncle's partner in a seasonal work up in the timber country of Kentucky. And Arnold would show up every spring. He'd go back to New Orleans in the winter, but he'd come up the Mississippi River and come over to Kentucky. And Bill Monroe used to tell me about going to dances where Arnold Schultz would play guitar, and Uncle Pen would play the fiddle, and Bill would be, asked to play with them. And he was only 8 or 9 years old. And that's where he got his start. So I was really proud to do a blues that had never been done in bluegrass before. That was a very satisfying feeling.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I'll let you go because you're probably getting ready to celebrate the new record. Congratulations on the new one. And thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it so much, man.
All right. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Hello, Auckland.